Okay, we'll start with this. News out of the 140-pound division by way of veteran boxing scribe Barboza Box, who says Pitbull Cruz will be back in August, and it will not be versus Gervonta Davis. It will be his first time in a PBC main event as the quote-unquote A-side.
Me gusta el rival.
What does that mean?
He likes the opponent.
He didn't say who it was or at what weight would the contest be taking place. Would it be Isaac's first defense as newly crowned WBA super lightweight champion, or is he going to move back down to lightweight?
Why would he move back down?
Well, a few days ago, there were some quotes from Isaac and his team that they are contemplating moving back down to lightweight. Would that be at the sacrifice of the WBA title? There are questions that need answers, especially since Ishmael Barroso is still the mandatory challenger to that title. Is that who Isaac is going to be fighting in August? And since they're headlining,
They would be.
is that going to be billed as a pay-per-view? Is that going to be billed as a box office fight? Some weeks ago, we heard that the PBC would be doing non-pay-per-view shows that are not hidden behind a paywall, but as it stands, none have been announced. The only shows we've been hearing about are pay-per-view shows. Zoo versus Fundora, Davis versus Martin, Canelo versus Munguia, but no non-pay-per-view shows. None yet.
Would this be the first?
Or are they going to try to build this as a pay-per-view? Once again, there are questions that need answers. Depending on what decision Isaac makes, just hypothetically, if he were to decide to go back to 135 and vacate his WBO title, it would then go to Ishmael Barroso, and he would be the reigning WBA champion.
If he did that.
If he doesn't do that, well, Ishmael is his mandatory challenger. You got to figure that at some point, Isaac would have to fight him or vacate the title.
What about Gervonta?
A Gervonta Davis rematch? Well, I still think the Isaac Cruz people are looking for that, if they can get it. Even if that's not going to be Isaac's very next fight, that could still be Gervonta's next fight. If he takes care of business with Frank Martin, and Isaac takes care of business in August against whoever he fights, they would probably do the rematch between them in the fall or winter months.
This is confusing.
Yeah, things are pretty immaterial right now based on this rumor, but some things aren't. I don't expect Isaac Cruz to unify titles with anybody at 140.
Of that, I'm sure.
I don't think he's going to unify titles with Subriel Matias. I don't think he's going to unify titles with Teofimo Lopez or Devin Haney if he wins this weekend. So if you need a point of reference as to what to expect and what not to expect, don't expect Isaac to unify titles with anybody at 140.
I don't think he's going to do that.
Maybe he stays at 140. Maybe he defends his newly obtained WBA title. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he moves down, goes to 135, fights Rayo.
Or maybe Rayo moves up, fights him up there at 140.
When you look at it through that lens, that unification matches are just not likely. If we're talking about Isaac coming back in August and staying on the PBC side of things, but not unifying with anybody, that gives you a good idea who he might fight. Maybe he fights his mandatory in Barroso, maybe he doesn't, maybe he fights Rayo.
Maybe he fights Gary Antoine Russell.
Gary Antoine Russell is still over there. Alberto Puello, I think he's still over there too.
But wouldn't Isaac make more money if he fought one of the other champions at the weight?
Yeah, but Rolly could have made more money fighting Ryan. He ended up fighting Isaac instead. That's how they do business over there. Ass backwards.
Seen this before.
I don't have any illusions about who Isaac is going to be fighting in August. If nothing else, I know it won't be a unification match.
Elsewhere in the division,
Eddie Hearn has revealed that they are now exploring a fight between Dalton Smith, unbeaten up-and-comer Dalton Smith, and Regis Prograis next. Regis will come back around in July or August. He's still a big player in the division. I love Dalton Smith against Regis Prograis.
Regis signed a 3-fight deal with Matchroom.
You will remember it was a 3-fight deal, and if they move forward with this Dalton Smith fight, this would be the 3rd fight of the deal. The first fight was Danielito Zorrilla, the 2nd fight was the Devin Haney fight, and this Dalton Smith fight, that would be the 3rd fight.
Dalton Smith, who was in action a few weeks ago opposite the ring veteran journeyman Jose Zepeda, a common opponent between him and Regis Prograis. The matchmaking there was not an accident.
That was a litmus test to see if unbeaten up-and-comer Dalton Smith is ready to step in there with more game competition. Jose Zepeda, he's a crafty southpaw and a hard puncher. The same can be said for Regis Prograis, with the difference being that Regis has been a champion 2 times at this weight. And don't let that Devin Haney fight fool you. Devin had the right style and the right physical dimensions for the job.
He did.
But does Dalton Smith? Dalton is big guy for 140 pounds. Long guy, too. Generous physical dimensions. He's got that.
But does he have the poise? Does he have the patience to stay behind his jab?
That's how Devin did it. Jab and a half step back. You have to think of a fighter like Regis, a counterpuncher like Regis, as a bomb that's waiting to go off. And you have to be careful around it if you don't want it to go off.
I see what people have been saying about Regis, that he's no good, his feet are no good, he's slow, and he's old.
Knee-jerk reactions to what was a bad style matchup with Devin Haney. And I told you it was a bad style matchup. I told you. That's how that fight was going to go. Because with Devin, Regis won't have the opportunities to get off a big counter, to use his power. Devin's too long, too sharp.
And he's going to stay behind his jab. It's only going to be 1 and 2 punches at a time. Not many opportunities to catch him in between.
Boxer punchers like Regis, counter punchers like Regis, they need that. They need that guy that's going to try to string 3 and 4 punches together so they can catch him in between the shots. If you don't give him that opportunity, that bomb don't go off.
So the Jose Zepeda fight was an audition for this fight?
Kind of. Guy's been around a while, like Regis has been around a while. Jose's a southpaw, like Regis is a southpaw, and Jose, he does pack a big punch, like Regis packs a big punch. So you could argue that that fight was an audition for this one.
Yeah.
Dalton's got to be careful with Regis. If nothing else, he has to box him 1 and 2 punches at a time, using his height, using his length, and using his jab.
Keeping his feet under him.
And moving, because that's what Regis doesn't like. Regis is one of these guys, if he has to give chase, he's open for punches.
Saw that in the Zorrilla fight. Saw that in the Haney fight.
Could see that in the Dalton Smith fight, if Dalton keeps his wits about him and his feet under him. It's not enough to just use the jab and use the jab. You have to move. Take that half step back to keep distance between you and him. Because if he gets inside on you, you're in trouble.
Don't let that happen.
The Jose Zepeda knockout was a good advertisement for Dalton Smith's power. A Regis Prograis fight would be a good advertisement for Dalton Smith's boxing, his boxing.
We'll see if they make it.
Upstairs in the men's welterweight division, some recent quotes from Jiren Enis as to why he decided to go to Matchroom and not go over to the PBC after achieving free agency. He said, I got bills and a family to take care of. I can't just be sitting around waiting. It's like going to work and they're not giving you enough hours. I wasn't getting enough hours, but it's no hard feelings towards PBC. They guided my career. They got me to where I am now. Signing with Eddie Hearn is a big deal. He's going to back me 100%. That's what he told YSM Sports Media.
Wait a minute, he said the PBC guided his career? I thought he was never officially a PBC guy.
On paper, he wasn't. On paper, he was a Cameron Duncan fighter, a Boxing Now fighter, who was working with Showtime, who was funneling his fights over to PBC shows that, even though he wasn't a PBC fighter on paper, he might as well have been, because if you wanted to see him fight, he was fighting exclusively on Showtime and exclusively on PBC shows. He wasn't fighting anywhere else.
You see what it came down to?
Activity. He wants to be more active, he wants to get out there more often, and at the PBC, at least Team Ennis felt, they wouldn't have been able to do that. We've been all through it, the empty promises that they made.
How many videos have I told you? It's gonna come down to fight dates because these guys have got bills to pay just like me and you and families to feed. And they can't wait around forever for Al Heyman to deliver when he has less fight dates now than he had last year.
Yeah, it was different when you had a lofty Showtime budget, an annual Showtime budget to bankroll your shows, but the situation has changed. And what fighters...
People thought Jiren Enis was going to go with the PBC. I thought Jiren Enis was going to go with the PBC.
I said yes, that's for sure.
Is that a fight that you want?
Yeah, for sure. He's like everybody says, he's a boogeyman, you know. He's good. I'm not going to lie. He's a good fighter, you know. But I think I have a big chances to get a win against him.
You said big chances.
Yeah.
What do you see? Where do you get that energy from?
Nobody's like when everybody is fighting him, nobody's feigning him, you know. They just go straight or something, you know. You have to be tactical against him also, like. So, but he's like I said, great fighter, good fighter.
That is unbeaten WBA regular champion Anton Stanionis, who very recently sat down with Mill City Boxing And that's not all that he told him. Anton Stanionis has revealed that he is a free agent and his fight with Gabriel Maestre is a one-off with the PBC.
After that, he can leave.
As far as he knows, what is an added incentive for young Anton Stanionis, who has not seen action in well over a year, to win that fight, because there are lucrative opportunities, perhaps the most lucrative opportunities of his entire career so far.
Yes!
Beyond that Gabriel Maestre fight, set to go down on the undercard of Canelo versus Munguia.
If he wins, he can go over there to Matchroom and put his money where his mouth is. He's in a pole position to become this division's next WBA champion, full champion, after Crawford vacates all his titles.
So, where initially I thought that we might see Anton Stanionis versus Mario Barrios on the PBC side of things, we might not.
If Stanionis wins, who says Eddie don't scoop him up, sign him?
He hasn't fought in 2 years. He's been inactive, in part because of the Virgil Ortiz fight that never was. First, Anton Stanionis had a medical issue, then Virgil had a medical issue, then there was another medical issue.
Then it got called off.
Poor Stanionis lost a lot of time on that, and he hasn't seen action since April of 2022 opposite the ring Radzov Butaev on the undercard of what was Spence versus Ugas. He's been out a long while.
A lot of ring rust.
Under normal circumstances, Stanionis would be the natural choice, the natural pick to beat Gabriel Maestre, but because he's been out so long, it's a factor.
I'm rooting for him.
I want him to win. I've seen him in action. He's a good, solid fighter, as tough as they come, and he can punch a bit. I want him to win. I hope that he does.
So he can go to Matchroom, make some money over there, maybe unify titles with Boots.
Fight is a jumping ship. Anton Stanionis needs to. There's no further reason for him to keep doing business with the PBC.
Not after this fight.
I don't think there was any serious talks. But then that would be a fight I would love, and even that would be a fight I would love to take, even overseas over there in the UK.
I'm sure he'll be delighted to hear that if he's watching, both Eddie and Conor. In fact, what is the attraction? I mean, have you always wanted to fight in the UK?
Yeah. I don't know. Just growing up, always something about going overseas, and fighting somebody in their home country. It always just was something I wanted to do. So why not? Like I said, I want to fight the best. Why not go fight somebody in their backyard?
The way things are between Conor and the BBBOC, Mario may not have to, because Conor can't get a license over there. They're still holding Conor's feet to the fire due to his anti-doping fiasco well over a year ago. So if there were to be a fight between Mario and Conroy in the near future, it would have to be here. It would have to be in America, where he has already boxed in his last 2 fights. So you have Anton Stanionis entertaining a fight with Jiren Enis, who's now over there at Matchroom, and you also have Mario Barrios entertaining a fight with Conor Benn.
Same thing.
Also at Matchroom.
Where initially I thought that Stanionis and Mario would fight each other in a potential unification match on the PBC side of things, hearing these sound bites from the both of them,
hearing Stanionis say that he'll be a free agent after the Gabriel Maestre fight, that his upcoming fight, it's a one-off.
He's got to win that fight.
Don't forget what happened when Mikhail Fox fought Gabriel Maestre. They robbed him. They robbed him blind. Anton Stanionis not having a commitment to the PBC, or them not having a commitment to him, I should say, leaves the door open for another highway robbery. He has to be on his P's and Q's. He has to win that fight. He has to make it to where they can't take it from him.
Why would they?
If he loses that WBA regular title and it goes to Gabriel Maestre, who's to say they don't have something going on with him? They've already robbed one fighter to give Gabriel a gift. He could be another, if he's not careful.
What about Mario?
Mario Barrios, a good, young, serviceable fighter who's become somewhat of a familiar face and a familiar name the last 2 or 3 years or so.
He's got a kid on the way.
Him and Brandon Figueroa's sister, Omira, I'm sure you're familiar. They're together, they've got a kid on the way, and he's got to start thinking outside of the box. He's got to start thinking what's best for him and his business as opposed to what's best for the PBC, because there ain't no money over there. If you're willing to cross over to Matchroom and fight Conor Eddie'll pay you, and he'll pay you well. More than that, beyond that fight, even if you lose, he might still use you.
Like he did with Jose Zepeda.
Remember, he put Zepeda in there with his guy, Richardson Hitchens. Then he put him in there again, more recently, with Dalton Smith. If you're Mario Barrios and you're looking for a couple of fights, Eddie might be able to get you some.
And he'll pay him well to fight Conor Benn.
Remember that Mario Barrios is WBC interim champion, in a pole position to become full champion once Terrence vacates the remaining titles he holds. That's worth something to Eddie. That's worth something to Conor, being able to secure that interim spot to one day become full champion. And if you do, who knows? Maybe he could put Conor in there with the winner of Taylor versus Catterall. Maybe by then they will have smoothed things over with the BBBOC. There's value in it. There's value in making a Conor Benn versus Mario Barrios.
There's value in making that fight.
There's value in it for Eddie. There's value in it for Conor. There's value in it for Mario, too, because fighting Conor Benn on the Matchroom side of things might pay better than staying on the PBC side. Who's on the PBC side that's going to get you paid?
What was their welterweight stronghold is now in ruins, shambles.
The aesthetic of a Conor Benn versus Mario Barrios fight. Two mid-range to inside action fighters, punchers, that like to let their hands go. That would yield a fan-friendly aesthetic. I wouldn't mind seeing it.
But Mario, like Anton Stanionis, has another man in front of him. And that's who he has to focus on. He has to focus on Fabian Maidana. To get to the bag, the real bag, he has to make it past that guy.
A familiar theme you're seeing is a good number of PBC fighters are considering jumping ship and going to Matchroom. Some already have, like Subriel Matias, like Jiren Enis, unofficially.
Deontay Wilder's team Matchroom.
And Matchroom can accommodate these fighters, these refugees, because their dealings in Saudi Arabia and all of Matchroom's fighters that they're using, Matchroom's fighters that they're paying, that's not coming out of Matchroom's budget. The Saudis are paying for those shows, which creates a cash surplus they can then use to do other shows.
Since the Saudis are paying for Dimitri's next fight, and the Saudis are paying for Anthony Joshua's next fight, the Saudis are paying Hrgovic.
That's money Matchroom doesn't have to spend, so they can reallocate those funds to do other fights with other fighters on other dates.
These guys better get while the getting is good.
If Anton Stanionis and Mario Barrios win their next fights, they better head over to Matchroom.
That's where the fight dates are.
That's where the money is. There's a reason they came in as the #1 promotional outfit in boxing, ahead of Top Rank and ahead of the PBC.